you know, discovering I was discovering my path in the world. I was in a different country, and as Dr. Nadia, I call her like that, Dr. Nadia. It's like just a respectful way to call her. But she, as she explained it, my second language is not English; it's Spanish. And coming from Brazil, it's kind of different because in Brazil, like in the whole South America, we do not share like the language. So when we call ourselves like Latino, we have a kind of barrier, like cultural barrier. So in that kind of definition. But myself, since I was young, I always, as long as I understood the barrier, like geographically, the countries, the concept of countries, the different cultures, I was always trying to understand my surroundings first, and just for me, it made sense to be surrounded by my neighbors and understand them, and then go further, like cross the ocean. Even though as a Brazilian, I understand that Portugal, have our colonization and our history and so on. So I'm not going to keep on that. But just going back in my first thought, Spanish was kind of when I decided to choose Spanish back in the second grade. I think it's different here in Brazil, but it's like beginning in high school. When you begin in high school in Brazil, we have to decide which language are you going to focus on, like a second language. So I choose Spanish. It made sense for me, but it was kind of different. Not all people go there and take Spanish classes. They decide to take English, but it's just how things work. Like I mentioned, the international and American culture is kind of plays a huge role here in Brazil. It's changing right now, but it's kind of curious. So that kind of consumption, that kind of behavior from the market and from the, movies and entertainment and everything impact the culture in such a way that we are discussing how people choose their future and how they interact with the global in general. So I'm just sharing a little bit of my story. Like I'm saying, my second language was Spanish because I really understood that being surrounded by neighbors who had a different culture, and I'm not saying only the language, but also the food and the costumes and songs, music, and everything. It made sense for me just step by step going, and discover new things. I always wanted to go abroad and had this kind of experience, understand how people work in different regions with different weather, different behavior and routines in general, not only geographically, but also how people think differently. And I cannot deny, since I was a kid, I was experiencing this kind of accomplishment. So with learning Spanish, I could easily cross the border with to Bolivia and just try different food, speak a little bit, and share my thoughts and understand how simple their lives were compared to mine back in Brazil. So for a young age, I'm talking about like 13, 14 years old. We are talking like it's a huge difference for like these kids, like these teenagers had this kind of experience. But only the border of Brazil, they had this kind of uh, natural and geographically possibilities to cross the border and learn about cultures in general. But anyways, just a little bit of me. I am also an engineer in industrial engineering. I studied in America, like you already know. It's such a pleasure to be back here because in this research program I attended, and I was, honored to participate in the University of Arizona. I experienced the real research world in a huge and comprehensive research institution, and that changed kind of my life. I really decided that I would be a teacher, a researcher, and work for, you know, spread out education globally. Even though I, have only contact with Americas in general and Europe, but it's kind of my dream just to, like being here, it's kind of accomplished as well, talking to you, sharing knowledge, and have a possibility to have a great and great conversation. So in this presentation that I put everything together, I just wanted to keep in mind global view, and also just share with you my perspective of what it's being a global journey person, or what is a global journey means when you hear from people from different countries or different regions in the globe. So in general, we are going to conceptualize this global journey and also talk about different showcases. And probably you guys know better than me these persons that I put here, this showcase. But this is the meaning. This is my objective, just trying to talk to you in a language that we all understand. It doesn't, even though I, make some mistakes, I already apologize myself. I'm a bit nervous, even though I'm a teacher here, I'm a lecturer. But anyways, it's still, internet connections, talking to people with different language and background. So again, thank you for having me and share this moment with me. It means a lot to me. So definition is going to be the first. So we're going to go through examples of immigrants, professionals, international collaborations. And when we talk about international, collaboration, we are going to talk about globally in general, projects with positive impacts on not only on local but also global communities. I'm sure you already had discussions about this kind of topics. We also are going to cover something about the challenges of this kind of professionals, like the mobility professionals and the international collaborations, not only the language, but also like policies, rules, visas, and all this kind of bureaucracy in general, and the future of the international professionals mobility. And we're going to finish with kind of case of study, but it's just a conversation. I want you guys to be really feel good and feel comfortable to share experience if you want to. So yeah, that's all. Let's begin. Basically, a global journey is typically refers to a broad and comprehensive experience of exploration that spans across different countries, cultures, or regions. However, we do have this kind of global journey when you also change for your locally. For example, you guys that are not from Tucson, for example, you already had this kind of experience, like moving from a city or a different state to attend college. It doesn't matter what made you have this kind of decision, but you already experienced this kind of change of culture, food, way of living, the costumes as well, the temperature. People that are not from Arizona, it might just kind of hard time in the first months, even though I cannot forget like the summer, right? So all these kind of experiences are broadly the same or are similar to this kind of global journey. When we call like global journey, of course we are living in the same planet, same globe, so we expand this definition to countries. So it's easy to understand that different countries it might have different language, so it's kind of a repertoire. It's easy to understand, but I also want you to understand that when we say global, like global journey, we can also say that changing from cities or changing from neighborhood, you can experience or have experience completely different that you had before. So moving forward, I just brought this examples of immigrants professionals, but it's just we have just a limited time. I could talk like hours and hours from different personalities and people that are succeed in their field. But I just took I brought four of them here just to trying to connect with some of you guys. I know you have backgrounds it's kind of different in the honors college. So for those of you that coming from like science or the engineer field, Filippo Preziosi, it's a really famous engineering, Italian engineering, and he is really famous because he led the Ducati team for years. And for those of you that understand how that can be challenging, imagine like leadership, it's not easy. Imagine you being like from a different country and learned engineering in different place, but then you have to lead a team with brilliant and intelligent minds, but you have to have this kind of um, intelligence and be flexible the way that you put everybody together moving forward a specific project. And this project is not really a simple one, it's just a complex one. And you are the person who brings everything together. It's really challenging, but he did this really well. So, of course, um, moving to Meghan Markle, she is a really well-known actress, and she got related to the UK royal family as well. But what brings her here is that she advocate for women's right and gender equality, and she's kind of important for this kind of place, especially because when we call royal family, we are talking about really traditions and traditions that might not work in our society right now. So it's kind of culture shock as well. And she plays an important role in that field, in her field. Elon Musk, it just I believe it's it's she I'm sorry he it's also well known. He is from South Africa, and he is related to not only SpaceX, but he plays important role in technology and advance and engineer as well, computer science, and all these different areas. And Salma, she is famous Mexican actress. And every time I use the word famous, I'm not saying only, famous because she is an actress, but famous because she is good doing that. She is recognized, and people respect her for her job. That's the word famous come from when that's what I mean when I use that word. So she had also advocate for immigrant rights. So it's just an example of people that you might know or maybe not, but international professional mobilities, it's something that it's way beyond only, what we see in our front. When we talk about professionals that come from a different country, first they need to find opportunity, and this comes from exploring different countries possibilities, professionals as well, and also maybe change for their current work. So it's common people from different countries when go to another one, they switch work, or they switch the jobs, or they are even though uh, able to or willing to kind of have downgrade in their career just in order to pursue that dream or that wish to go abroad and work in different countries and have this kind of experience. So the benefits of this kind of mobility is the expansion of the network, have contact, even though people going abroad doesn't stay there like as an immigrant. It also can be a temporary, like me. I stayed like 2 years in America and an exchange as an exchange student, and that experience was a temporary one that changed kind of my whole life. And when I got back to Brazil, many doors got open and possibilities also expand to me, even though I came back. That's just to mention, it's not only for immigrants. And in enriching the cultural experience and brings significant learning opportunities. But it also costs something, it came from, it brings or it raises challenges. Cultural barriers is one of them, complex immigration law, and cultural shock. So when we talk about immigration rules, it's not only the country that you plan to go to, but also your own. Some countries it might have a strict human rights problems that people cannot also have hold a passport, for example. So if the people, oh, I'm sorry, if the person cannot hold her or the person on passport, imagine how this person can apply for a visa, the time delay and the time processing and all the check-ins that this situation might cause. So immigration laws, of course, different countries, different cultures as well, can play can be a challenge for the persons who wants to pursue this kind of experience. Cultural shock, it's something that, again, like I mentioned, you can also experience in your own country, in your own state, and even your own neighborhood. You just cross the city, you can see different houses, architecture, ways of living, and different, everything, like the food people eat, and also the way people speak, even speaking the same language. Talking about international collaboration, now we are kind of, going in a macro area of this kind of collaborations. We have a famous HIV prevention in Africa, which was really important partnership between African and European researchers. They develop pioneering initiatives for disease preventions. I do apologize for some, spelling mistakes. Sometimes just happen here. But anyways, I try, my best. So I also open to questions if you want to share or ask something in the end. I will be, more than glad to ask them, to answer them. I'm sorry. Marine sciences, marine sciences, it's kind of interesting because if you imagine, we do have oceans, like in really more than one sea. So almost every country in the globe, or I can say every continent in the globe, there there is an ocean or a sea that is surround them. So it's kind of interesting that how the basics of biology, like the water, connect people in a way that it forces this kind of collaboration in general. So it's really nice to see how people, for example, in this kind of um, program here, the collaboration between Brazilians and Japanese researchers allowed significant advances in the study of marine science and aquatic biomes. For example, in Brazil we do have a huge coast, I'm sorry, a huge shore, and we don't have earthquakes. It's not common here. So we don't have like the tectonics, dynamics, but we do have kind of different weathers from the north to the south of Brazil. And then brings diversity to our biome. And when we talk about Japan, the collaboration about that, it's interesting because I'm sorry, the largest community from Japanese outside of Japan, it's in Brazil, which is curious, but it's our history, it's how things worked in the past. So this kind of, intersections of culture, it's interesting that emerge with some good and important relationships because of Japanese people and Brazilian people are connected in a way that we cannot describe like properly. They also collaborate in research, which is amazing. Imagine having a problem or an issue, and you do have people from different cultures looking from the same problem with different perspectives. You're going to have so many different possibilities to solve the same problem. And that's something that we are looking for when we talk about global journeys. So moving on to the last but not least, the genetics uh, relationships and partnerships. A group of German and Cuban researchers worked together to identify new genes involved in the development of heart disease. I just choose this one because it's really famous. Sorry, sorry. I choose this one to share with you, but just because it's famous in the global community, but we cannot. I can bring something that it's really. It's how can I say? It's more recent. The COVID-19, like everybody, every lab in the genetics lab in the globe, almost everyone just change a little bit or dedicate some time to help to identify and understand better the DNA and RNA of the virus. And also here in Brazil, there are some international researchers, like I can say that, they also made part of this group, and we are really proud of them because like I mentioned, we are big consumers of American entertainment. But when we talk about like also collaborate, like also, put in the game something that is really precious and people want to consume, we don't see that much. So it's changing from the last 10 years. So being as a Brazilian and seeing in all the news and all the papers names of Brazilians researchers dedicating and working together globally in order to solve some issue or advance some specific literature and science, it's really, it makes me feel proud. And that's again something that when we are talking about global journey, it's something interesting. Almost every continent, there were some researchers working together trying to decode in the virus DNA so we could easily, and when I say easily, it's not easy, but I'm saying faster identify and understand how the virus work, and so we could develop some drugs and everything else related with health in general. So again, just let me see this here. So again, just I brought some projects with positive impact on local and global communities now. And we have Millennium Bridge for those of you that could, um, being in London. I've been in London once, and it's just magic when you see like how the structure and their architecture works well in the one of the oldest cities in our society, and also being surrounded by these ancestors and ancient buildings, but with international collaboration and bringing new of what we have the new in the architecture and some, how can I say, like contemporary um, view as well. So Iconic Engineering Project created a multidisciplinary team so they could work towards this bridge, which is kind of beautiful and a kind of interesting thing that is located in London. We do have also, I also brought the Marvel comics just to again share with you something that impact our society here, but I believe that also impacted the global communities all across the world. We could see people talking about the Black Panther series. I believe everybody recognized this novel, and which is featured predominantly from a Black cast and a production team as well, showcasing, we put in focus in how the African culture is rich and it's beautiful and also important for our society, and also making a significant social impact. Just addendum here, again, because of the space at the time, I could not put everything that I could, but we do also had this kind of discussions when we saw the Ariel from Disney. I believe it was this year, if I'm not making a mistake. So the same movement, even though some people dislike the movie, it's we cannot deny that when we bring out this kind of discussion about racism and how like how we can in our society identify talents and bring together also the importance of different cultures and different perspectives. It's something that it's interesting to us here in this class and also in this presentation to identify. We just discuss and remember that when we see in TV or when we see in the news or in the papers, in an article, in a scientific article or a book, something going on, that you can also imagine that this kind of discussion just spread out the world and took place to people discuss and um, move this topic forward. So the last thing I just brought in this piece of presentation was Draw Your Future. It's in Barcelona, Spain, which is an unbelievable, stunning city. Barcelona is surrounded by culture and also painting and art in general. And this project helps young people develop professional skills and entrepreneurship. So it's kind of, you can go there and you can not only learn from people that paint, but you also can understand how diversity, you can see like every window or every space, it's kind of different. There's no like geometry or symmetric in the order people build these places, but this is what make this place original and really interesting. They are made by diversity in how people imagine, for example, a window, or how they imagine a balcony, how a balcony should look like. And this is really interesting to us to share. So moving, I'm almost finishing here. So moving on to challenges of professional mobility. Again, just to add a different perspective of what I already said, cultural barriers, it can be barriers in the communication, for example, but also language, also costumes, routines, and how people do things, and how people interact with each other. And that could be challenge for people that are not used to or not from that culture. But on the other hand, we can see that as long as you understand the this is what makes this experience rich or makes this experience mind changing, so you can understand from different perspectives, so you can observe uh, and learn from the differences. And that's something that is really um, something that you should looking for when you are in this professional mobility experience. Immigration and visas is important. obtaining a visa or work authorizations or travel authorizations, authorization to stay in a country and do what you intend to do. It's time consuming. You do have to take time in order to not delay, and maybe you have to change plans just because you don't have the, your paper sent or your passport ready to travel. So it's something that you also might have in mind once you want to, have this experience. Remote collaboration, well, there it is. So we are here after, especially after this pandemic and also this global health issue we had last 3 years, let's say 2 years. We do see that physical distance cannot be the thing that is going to stop us to collaborate with each other. So technology can be used in order to put people together, not only talking but also interacting with each other. Like we are here, you can see me, you can hear me, but also if I want, you can see my presentation. I can change something. I can send um, a task to you. So we do can do we do can I'm sorry, we can do things that the last 10 or 20 years was not possible. So this is really interesting for people who want to um, try this global journey. I would strongly suggest going and look for, do your research, do your homework, and identify a type of experience and try to collaborate remotely so you can get a sneak piece of what's going to be when you go there in a country and in person. Maybe you are not going to like the experience, then you can try again and you can try again. So you can, save money. You can save, let's say you are already on college, so you do need to be like you guys are there like in person to attend this classes. So you can do both. For example, myself, I was finished my master's thesis. In the same time, I was collaborating with Dr. Nada. It was amazing for me. I got like a global perspective, and I could use that in my life just to get a burst in my career and motivate myself as well. So it's not only about like going abroad, what I'm going to do in the future, how I'm going to use this experience, but also personally for you, for yourself, and for your personal development. And strategies to overcome challenges. For example, you might be searching for language courses. So you're not good in the language of this country. You can, search for some classes or for some groups to collaborate, to learn more and put yourself connected to this culture and languages. Also, you can build network, for example, in a conference that for the University of Arizona, which is a well-known research institutions that hold sometimes conferences like international conferences. You can just, step by there, just look at the papers and look at the posters and talk to people, even though it's not from your area, but the people that you see there is from the country that you want to, have this experience. So you can go there and share your thoughts about the research or the topic they are speaking about, and also for a conference that you can, just attend the workshops. So that's as easy and also save some money and enjoy your time at college. And being surrounded for people that come from different countries, again, it's always an advantage. It always bring good things, and I see its advantages of um, people with different perspectives can bring in our your conversations. And also you can apply for jobs for companies abroad, companies that are in different countries, companies that send people abroad. You can apply for internships in, maybe you already learn from the culture from this country, but in a safe place. Like, let's say you are in Tucson working in American environment, but you work with an Indian group from India, and then you want to go to India. So before go like physically there, you can also, you can before going get a understanding of the culture, of the traditions, being in a safe and well-known environment. So then you can move forward and challenge yourself in the future. Also, there are companies that can help you out getting some documentations and just get ready with your policies and make sure you're not doing something wrong. Otherwise, you are not going to get into the country, and this is really bad experience where you just are unable to start your experience, right? So I see this future international professional mobility, for example, the extension of commuting, telecommuting. Otherwise, you can just say like the communication in general using technology. With the pandemic, like I mentioned, it's spread out. People are more flexible, and companies are more flexible nowadays, so they can the configuration of the work is changing. After a while, we got back to our office, but as long as we work for a specific project and you can be more productive, so it's kind of uh, changing the reality of the jobs and the workplace in general. So I see that as um, changing in the future, and that can help international collaborations and mobility as well. Environmental impact, that's something that I know that you guys already discussed, how the environmental impact is some topic that we do need to talk in an international way or in a globe impact way, because like I mentioned, the ocean project, oceans, the water, you cannot just control the way waters move from the chains around the oceans. You just when you pollute some place, you just go spread out. So yeah, Dr. Nadia.
Yes, we have 1 minute to open to questions. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, thank you very much. I just brought some different projects here. I would love to share with you or hear from you guys. This one, for example, do you have a relationship, or do you have some person that motivates you? It doesn't need to be from international background, but it will, if you have, it will be great. And what this person, why this person is important to you, and also if you would love to share um, positive impact this international person motivates you for. I would love to hear. And again, thank you, Dr. Nada, for having me. Thank you guys for listening to me and having me here. It's also a dream coming true for me. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for this presentation. Do you have any comment or question for please? Maybe related with the presentation or maybe related with the last slide that he shared with us? Yes, Gabby?
I think kind of like in the cultural lens, I have like being an only child, I have like 5 younger cousins who, I mean, this is like multiple people, but I think I view them in like a same lens where like I want to grow my own connection with my culture and understanding different cultures so that I can kind of share that with them and just continue it because I think it's so important. And so that kind of ties in with like science in the future and being able to collaborate on ideas and yeah.
Thank you. Any other question or comment? Someone that would like to share about, a person or group of people, or maybe an example that motivates you on a personal or professional perspective? You know, one of the things that I found fascinating every time that I'm listening to a presentation where the person is from a different context, in a different culture. It's, for example, in this case, the examples that Euclides brought to the presentation might be different or might be seen or defined different in United States. And it's very interesting how the positionality of the example of one person, it might be very defined different in a different context. And I found that my experience in this country is that many times we don't have the opportunity to be more broader in the sense of seeing other perspectives. It's more like, and that's the way that also we see it when we are not living in the United States. Even the way that we always, many of us will refer about United States that it's America, and it's not America. Actually, America, it's the continent, right? How we need to open ourselves, not only to agree with that perspective, but also to understand that there's other cultures that they have different perceptions and different definitions according to historical events, or maybe to people that are in different industry and the way that it's seen and defined in a different way. For example, for me as a Mexican, it was so interesting that you brought Salma Hayek. That actually Salma Hayek, it's not only recognized as a Mexican, but also that family is coming from Middle East, and they immigrate to Mexico. One of the things that he's been doing in the last years is to also embrace and says, I'm not only Mexican, actually my heritage is coming from Middle East, and I'm an immigrant too in Mexico, second generation. But many times in Mexico, we don't recognize what she's been doing in terms of the impact of the industry in United States and other countries, because she has starred, in a predominant TV channel in Mexico. So it's very interesting to hear from a Brazilian person the way that you define and the way that you see Salma Hayek. Even many times in my country, we don't recognize her the way that you are recognized her. So it's for me, it's one of the things that it's always, remind myself to be open in the way that other people define or see certain personalities or certain historical events according to their culture, their own context, and their own interpretation of that situation. Any comments or last question from them, please? No? He's applying to grad school in United States, and even he already having some experience in United States and other countries. Sometimes it's not the same when we came to United States for a short period of time that being really attending a school in United States. So do you have any advice for him now that he's getting ready and applying for different schools from your perspective, your experience in terms of schooling in United States? Yes, Aria?
When you're doing your applications, don't focus just on academics. Focus on what you do in your spare time, like any jobs, any volunteer work, any hobbies you have. They really look into you as like a whole person.
That's an excellent advice, because in Latin America, it's always academia. And that's what we are felt as a Latin American people when we are applying to US school. Thank you so much for that advice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other last comment or question? No? Okay, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective, your personal journey. Thank you also for bringing some advice based on your experience. We really appreciate it. And I'll be in contact with you just to and formalize the end of the online internship. I really appreciate your time and your knowledge, and all your work to support in this class. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Bye bye. Have an excellent week. Bye bye. Thank you, Dr. Nadia.